Rain and wind moving out tonight, and then all eyes on the end of next week and the possibility for winter weather.
Yeah, it's definitely, rain's still going. Hopefully that winter weather won't be too hard on us, but yeah.
Already rough out there for sure. Went out to my
Absolutely.
car, got drenched. Crazy out there already.
Yeah, it's going to be fun driving down this mountain, but don't forget to join us back tomorrow morning at 4:30. Y'all have a great evening.
This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Good evening and welcome to WAAY 31 Law Call. I'm Sharon Doviet. Tonight it's Ask Us Anything night, calling your questions on any legal topic, getting the new year started off. So maybe you've dealt with a car accident, maybe you're worried about wills, trusts, and estates kind of questions. Tonight's your chance to call in. The 31 Law Call number 256-536-0077. But not only can you call in and be live on the show, you can text your question to that same number, and we have some of those ready for you tonight. You can also email a question. You can email any legal question any day of the week, and we'll pull some out. We've got some of your email questions tonight. Michael Timberlake's here from Timberlake, League and Brooks. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Here we go.
Here we go. Already started. Are there some things that you see that you think everybody ought to sort of review or check on top of the new year every time?
Yeah, I mean, it's the new year, so everybody's got their checklist. They're coming through, and so, okay, this is the things that I didn't do last year that were on the list. And I've got a lot of them. I know everybody does. I'm not throwing stones, but the things that you need to kind of look at and consider, as you go into the new year are, wills, powers of attorneys. Make sure that you check that box and that's up to date. And if there's been a change in circumstances in your life, maybe a divorce, it's been, where somebody has passed away, or there's, some kind of major change in circumstance, you need to make sure you update those documents. You need to think about your insurance on your cars and your homes. Make sure that, you have enough insurance if your house should, unfortunately, get destroyed. Do you have enough to rebuild or replace your house? Situation with your cars. Do you have enough to protect you and your family if something bad should happen? There's all kinds of other things, gifts, 401ks, college funds. The new year starts over again, so you can start contributing to those types of things.
Okay. New Year's. It's always something to think about. Okay, we've also got, we've been talking about severe weather. They're talking about severe weather maybe coming Friday or later this week.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that in terms of personal injury cases. And
Absolutely.
You guys have to, personal injury attorneys deal with all kinds of auto accidents and things related to it. There's always a question about whether if a road is closed and you drive on it, does your insurance cover you?
Yeah.
Is there a definitive answer on that one?
There's no definitive answer as far as whether you're going to be covered if you do something, you go around a barricade or something like that. More than likely you are. Obviously it's going to impact whether you're determined to be liable for a situation, or whether it's your responsibility. If it's a single car crash, you've gone behind a barrier, your collision coverage is going to pay. But if something untoward happens, it's probably going to be your fault. Those are the kind of things you look at in this situation. One of the major things about bad weather situations is that in the eyes of like an injury case, what we're saying is that you have to exercise reasonable care for the circumstances. So you can't blame an accident on water or rain or snow or fog or things like that. You have to operate your vehicle reasonably under the circumstances, and if the weather gets in the way, you need to slow down, or you need to pull over, or you need to stop.
Okay. We've got tonight's You Make the Law Call. You Make the Law Call clip. We pulled something off of YouTube. So this is something, we're talking about who's got the right of way. That's pretty important. And in this situation, we've got a transfer truck that's coming through.
Here we go.
So somebody's coming the other direction. You guys deal with video for a lot of cases these days, right? If you can get a hold of some video, you love it for any kind of injury case.
Sure.
Can you tell just by looking at that who's at fault?
Based on the stop sign, it looks like it's a four-way. So you got a four-way stop, and that truck just blows right through a four-way stop, and it looks pretty clear that it's his fault. I'm sure the driver could be injured, but thankfully it wasn't a broadside, driver's side impact collision that could have been really, really deadly. But obviously you got a truck driver that's maybe not familiar with the area, and just blew through a four-way stop.
Is there anything to the other driver? Would there be any argument to be made that they had an opportunity to see? Like they had some sight. They could have seen that he missed that. Is there anything that their insurance is not going to cover them because they could have stopped this maybe?
More than likely not. I mean, really what you've got is, and the situation is, and specifically in Alabama, you have a right to assume that other drivers are going to follow the rules of the road. So if you pull up to a four-way stop sign and you stop and you look to your left and there's a car coming to stop or coming to that stop sign, and you don't know whether they're going to stop or not, you still have the right to go. Now, if that truck was through the stop sign and closer to impact, then it may be a different story. But it's awfully hard to say. You have a right to assume that other people are going to do the right thing. And if they don't, then they're going to be responsible. I tell my kids, assume everybody's not going to do the right thing. Look both ways before you go through a red light. Look both ways before you go through a stop sign, because most of the time people may not do the right thing. And that's the way to avoid getting hurt.
We've got callers waiting. Bob's on the line with a question from Huntsville. Hi, Bob. Thanks for calling. What's your question tonight?
Yes, I have a question for him. I'm a elderly gentleman. I'm 75 years old.
Good deal.
That's a new 50. You're okay.
I haven't had a driver's license in 15 years.
Have not had a driver's license in 15 years?
No.
Okay.
Okay.
If I'm pulled over with one of these quote-unquote DUI checkpoints, is that legal? And what's going to happen to me?
Well, more than likely, if you're pulled over, and the Supreme Court has said that random checkpoints are legal, then and you can't produce a driver's license, then you're going to be cited for driving without a license. That's typically is a it's not an arrestable offense, so they're going to let you go. You're going to have to appear in court, and probably what's going to happen, the judge is going to tell you, you've got to get a driver's license. If you go and get a driver's license, then more than likely he's going to, you might have to pay some court costs, but he probably won't levy a fine. If you don't get a driver's license, then you're probably going to have to pay a bigger fine, and then you're going to be precluded from operating a motor vehicle. If you get caught after that operating a motor vehicle without a license, then it's going to be worse, and you may not ever be able to get a license again. So the thing to do is just get a driver's license. It's required by law to operate a motor vehicle in Alabama, so it's not expensive, not hard to do.
If Bob had an accident and he doesn't have a driver's license, does that make the case more difficult for him? Does it expose him more?
It's going to be a problem with the insurance.
Yeah.
I mean, Bob, if you don't have a driver's license and you don't have any insurance, then you're going to have to pay for any damages out of your pocket. And most insurance companies will not insure somebody who doesn't have a driver's license. So that's kind of the first question they ask: are you a licensed driver? So if you want to protect yourself and protect other people that are on the roadway, you need to have a driver's license.
Okay. We've got Deborah on the line with a couple of questions from Huntsville. Hi, Deborah. Thanks for calling. What's your first question tonight?
Both of them are relating to police officers.
Okay.
I went in to file a report on a neighbor person who had gotten into my internet.
Okay.
And was also into my phone and other things, and has been harassing and vandalizing and doing all kinds of things. And the officer, first of all, when I asked for some kind of a restraining order, I was told I couldn't have one because it needed to be investigated first. So we went around for the interview, and he said he was going to ask me some questions so he could, I guess, judge me some way. One of the questions was, he asked about my Redstone Credit Union checking account. He wanted my checking account number.
The officer did.
Yes, he asked
Okay.
for it, and I,
Okay.
I was quite surprised, and I just said, "Oh, I don't remember it." I did, but I wasn't going to give it to him because
Okay.
I felt like it was none of his business to know that.
Okay.
That he had the right to ask me that.
Okay. And so they have not been able to do anything to the neighbor that you feel has gotten. How do you know they've gotten into your internet and gotten into your phone? Are you getting some charges or things that you don't expect?
Oh yes. It went through WAAY, went through Apple, went through AT&T, and had to change our everything.
Okay.
And but it shows up at the Apple. Apple went through and was able to show us where they were into the phones.
Okay.
And they're interrupting everything in the phone. And like the television, I can leave the house and have the TV off. It's not even connected to a Wi-Fi anymore.
Okay.
And I come home and the lights are on and the TV is on a football game. And it's not connected to anything except the neighbor.
The
And
neighbor
you can
hasn't.
see it.
The neighbor hasn't admitted anything to you, have they?
Well, the father did say, "Well, he's off your phone now." That's all he would say.
Interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, these devices are supposed to be private, and most of the time they have a password protection and even like two-factor authentication that you can do to try to prohibit anybody who's unauthorized from getting on your devices. So the first place to start is to reset your passwords, reset all your security situations. In terms of the police. It's a difficult situation for the police because they can't just run out and arrest somebody for something that they didn't witness and that they don't have evidence has happened. So they've got to have at least some kind of probable cause or some kind of reasonable suspicion that a crime has occurred before they can do anything. So that's why they've got to investigate these matters. You can make a complaint to a magistrate, and if the circumstances of your complaint, if there's evidence to back it up and the magistrate finds that there's enough to issue a warrant for somebody's arrest or to say they've committed a crime, a magistrate can issue a warrant for an arrest and the police officers will execute that. But beside that, the police officers either have to do some kind of investigation to determine what has happened and find out the evidence of what the wrongdoing was before they can run out and arrest somebody.
I have it in family law cases a lot of times.
Sure.
When a boyfriend, girlfriend wants to accuse the old boyfriend or girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
They're charging things on my Apple. They're charging things on my card. They've got my number and they're charging things and we've broken up and they're still doing it.
Yeah.
It's hard to prove. It's
Yeah.
hard to prove that they're really doing it in order to get them in trouble. So I understand the difficulty with dealing with the police
Well,
on that.
and they're going to say, look, if it wasn't, change your account,
Yes.
change your passcode, that kind of thing.
Yep. Okay, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And Deborah, I know you've got another question. We're going to come back to it when we get back from a break, okay? Stay with us. More Ask Us Anything night.
You're watching WAAY 31 Law Call. Your rights, your calls, live. Presented by the Tennessee Valley's award-winning personal injury and wrongful death law firm, Timberlake, League & Brooks. Featuring the knowledge and experience of Attorney Michael Timberlake, Attorney Will League, Attorney Heath Brooks, Attorney William Maservi, and hosted by broadcaster and family law attorney Sharon Doviet. This is WAAY 31 Law Call.
Welcome back. Michael Timberlake is with me from Timberlake, League & Brooks, and it's Ask Us Anything night. We finished up with Deborah, who had 2 questions. We got the first one. Deborah, you still with us? What's your second question tonight?
The second one is also about a police officer and a restraining order. And this officer wanted to put a restraining order on my nephew, who I am responsible for. He has been declared mentally and physically handicapped by Social Security. I have to help take care of him and provide and so forth. And he got a little, had some kind of a fit going on, and a neighbor called when he heard a loud argument, and they came and they arrested him, and they said they were going to put a restraining order, and I said, no, I don't want one. You cannot do that, because he needs me, and I need his help at times. And I did not even know that they did it until, I guess it was in November, and this happened in June. And it was kind of an accidental thing that I found out. And I did not ever sign a paper. I told them I didn't want it, but they did it anyway. And so now I could be in a lot of trouble because I did not even know about it.
And so you're both of you are violating that order that's in place. Is that kind of what's going on?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different when you're dealing with a situation where you're dealing with a criminal matter with a restraining order. I mean, I know you probably deal with that in terms of divorce cases a lot. But if the police officer has presented evidence to a judge and they found out there's credible evidence that that this person presents a risk of harm to you, or you present a risk of harm to him, then that's what they're for. That's what those things are for. I think you can petition the court to have it removed, but I think that under the circumstances, obviously, I don't know what all the evidence was, but apparently the judge thought it was compelling enough to enter a restraining order.
Yeah, a lot of family law cases, you get boyfriends and girlfriends that are arguing with each other, and somebody gets a temporary restraining order against the other, and then they want to drop it. And judges don't like to drop it because they feel like this person may be getting pressured to drop it. So they oftentimes will cause them to have to appear before court and explain themselves, or for that person to get their own lawyer to assist in filing something to ask that it be dismissed, because they want to protect you. That's their purpose.
Yeah, I mean, the idea is if there's a credible threat, and typically there is, in order for a restraining order to be entered, then the judge is going to want to know why that threat no longer exists.
Yeah. We've got Remy on the line with a question from the Shoals. Hi, Remy. Thanks for calling. Thanks for watching. What's your question tonight?
Good evening and Happy New Year to both of you.
Happy New Year.
I'm concerned about, my wife's asked me to write up a will and stuff or get one drawn up. And I wondered about contingencies. I know when my stepfather died, we had 3 executors, brothers and sisters, whatever. And what I'm wondering is, can you put a contingency on an inheritance such as that the child must receive a 4-year undergraduate degree at minimum from an accredited university before they can receive so much funds or whatever? Or would that require a paid administrator or an executor to do that?
You are talking about something a lot more complicated, aren't you?
It gets a little tricky in that situation, but I think, typically what we see is that, you're not, once you're gone, it's hard for you to control your money. So most of the people that do estate planning say contingencies like this are probably not a good idea. If it's somebody that you think is too young to handle the money, then you can leave the money to somebody that's a trustee. You can place money in trust for them to be distributed, as they grow, as the trustee sees fit, or once they reach a certain age. So you can place some contingencies on it, the more complicated it gets, the more problematic it gets, we see. So it's really just something you need to talk to, go in, figure out what what you're leaving behind, and then, talk to someone that handles estates and wills, and they can come up with a good plan for you.
We got this text message regarding elderly parents who own their house and have a good bit of money. Is a will enough, or should we set up a trust for them? I'm an only child. My brother passed away a few years ago.
I mean, a lot of it, again, is kind of depends on what the circumstances are. If they have funds that would allow them to pay for long-term care and for their needs until they pass away, then a will certainly is something that they would need to have in place. Well, they need to have in place regardless, because it is the best way to pass that property along, or the assets along. But you want to talk to somebody that handles estate planning, so that you can determine, what are the next things. If they're not able to care for themselves independently, what's the next step from there? If they need full-time nursing care, what's the next step from there? Who pays for that? And that allows you to, one, plan for their care, and it also allows you to try to preserve as much of their estate as possible to pass on. So, there's a lot of, ways to, you're not just spending money when you're making an estate plan, you're creating a way to save money in the future.
We got this email question from Dee. Dee wrote in, I was in a wreck a couple of weeks ago and I reported it to my insurance company. Nothing much got done because it was the holidays, I guess. But now that that's over, what do I need to do to get them to hurry things up? How fast should this kind of thing actually take place?
Well, it kind of depends on what you want from the insurance company. Like if you're in a wreck and it's somebody else's fault and you report it to your insurance company, well, they don't really have any obligation to do anything. They don't represent you as an attorney. They don't have an obligation to make the other insurance company or the at-fault driver do anything to pay for your damages. Now, if you make a claim against your insurance company for property damage or the collision coverage, then they have an obligation to fix that damage, and then they will more than likely go after that other person. But unless you tell them you want to make a claim under your own policy or you have coverage for that, they really don't have an obligation to do anything against the at-fault insurance company, the at-fault driver. So you need to get on that or talk to a lawyer about what you need to do to represent yourself.
We got a text question about child support. My ex has recently been fired from his job and now has a job making less money. What steps will he have to make or take in order to decrease his child support? And will we have to go through mediation, or is this just paperwork I'm going to receive? So, family law area. Here we go. No. You got more?
This is my expertise.
Okay.
This is my
gotcha.
area of expertise.
Go for it.
If there is a material change in circumstances, then Sharon can tell you what can happen.
So he's got to file some paperwork and ask that the child support be changed. Until he does that, he's still got to continue paying exactly what he was ordered to pay before. So I don't know whether you bring it up with him. If he files some paperwork, there's the possibility that you could mediate. It would be that you'd eventually get a court date. He's not entitled to reduce the child support going back any further than when he files. So if he waits 6 months, he doesn't get to say, I lost my job 6 months ago and I need relief for all those months that I overpaid. So in his circumstance, or if you're somebody who's in this kind of circumstance, file as soon as you've got a big change in your income, because that's when the court will start looking at it.
Yeah, and one of the things you need to be careful about is simply, if you and your spouse get along and you tell your spouse, look, I've lost my job, I really just can't afford to pay, and your spouse says, yeah, that's fine, that doesn't mean you don't owe that money. You still owe that money, and it can come back to haunt you. So make sure that if you lose your job and it's going to be out of work for a long time, you need to go ahead and file the paperwork.
And you and your spouse or ex-spouse could do an agreement and file it with the court, but don't just take their word on it. Do an agreement, put it in writing, and file it with the court. We're going to take a break, be right back, answering more of Ask Us Anything night questions. Material change. If you didn't get your questions answered tonight, here's how to get in touch with Michael Timberlake with Timberlake League and Brooks in Huntsville, 256-536-0770 or 800-804-2502. The website is law-injury.com. And if you like them on Facebook, you can learn more about the law that way.
And Sharon practices family law right here in the Tennessee Valley. She understands what a material change in circumstances is, and she can help you. 256-539-7337, SharonFamilyLaw.com.
If this bad weather causes trees or things to fall on your roof, until you can get the insurance company out there, you got to sort of take care of it
you got to go out there
yourself.
and mitigate your damages. You got to do what you can do. Don't climb on your roof to put a tarp on, but you can contact somebody to do it. You know, try to do what you can do, get your valuables out of the water.
Be safe. Thanks for all your questions tonight. See you next week.